Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5, just raring to go because there's just so many things to share. But so many things on all kinds of different fronts, which is kind of exciting. Tomorrow, Saturday, I have big days to work on courses, so I'm going to take that. But I thought, today I'm going to come in and absolutely talk about a number of things that the same thing, the new format. So welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been watching for how many years we've been doing this. And the format is really about something different, something completely different, something new. And then what's in the news, any updates, a couple of things, and then some laughter, some fun, something that's funny. And I just I got a couple really good ones from the calendar, so I am going to share that, and we're going to leave it on a happy note, which in reality, if you can actually leave your day on a happy note, leave your party on a happy note, leave whatever you're doing, leave it on a happy note, as we have to continuously be mindful of bringing in some joy, some play, some fun, something like that every day, and as much as we can into our life at this time. But interesting times, and again, go out for a walk, and I end up meeting a few very interesting people, so I'm going to go on that in the news. But first, what do I want to, there's a couple of things I want to talk about as far as what is something different. The first thing, very light, but it's almost like walk this way, and then, well, I should have the camera so I can see what I'm going to show you first. So this gadget, maybe some of you are familiar with this gadget, but I'd have to say this is one of the best inventions ever. This shoehorn could be used as a baton if you want to use it as a baton. And the reason I kind of bring it up is because this is, I purchased one for both my daughters when they were very young, something fun. But I was recently in IKEA, and actually they had a lovely, elegant, not made from bone or anything fancy like that, but black shoehorn, and I purchased it so that my daughter, in her business, she works out of the home, would be having there. But then I decided, well, what is about this shoehorn? I could say it's the best invention, one of the best inventions, but what really is it? So it seems like it has a very mysterious past. It is not really known who invented it, but there is written, I guess how they sometimes speak to what things are is and they can reference it from some sort of a literature piece. So shoe horns, sometimes known as shoe spoons or shoeing horns, have a mysterious past and no one knows where they originated, but they were certainly in daily use in the 15th century. A reference to them appears in the literature of the time, including a poem entitled A Shoemaker's Verse Testament. Circa 1475 to 1500s, the shoemaker is making plans to leave his possessions to his son, one of which is his shoehorn. Now I'm going to try and read this, but I have to say I am going to post this link because the spelling of these words are nothing like I have seen. I'll say them as they're sounding. You're going to think about how they're written, but they're not written like, the spelling is not like that at all. So I'm going to read this little poem. I mean, it's 3 lines here. He bequeathed to his son Tome his chaspy and his showing horne with the pyrdowy. There you go. Don't know if I did any justice there, but son is spelt with an E at the end. And Tome is Tome, and his is Hys. Anyway, many other words here are spelt really, really different, like pyrdowy and shoeing, and anyway. So there we go. That's that. That's the shoeing horn. And what else was I going to do? Okay, one of the other things that kind of came up, I'm not sure why it came up, but it came up into my mind, and this had to do with meat. So on one hand, we can understand meat as being the farms with the grass-fed meat, beef. And we can also think about the wild animals like the moose and the deer, and there's the hunting, and to keep the herds or the numbers in balance with nature. And that's that. So that's the meat. That's what we're primarily used to in the past, until all of this commercialized farming. And I'm sure that in some way, shape, or form, there's a lot of meat thrown away. Now, maybe that meat is actually used for our pets, our dogs. I don't know. It'd be all interesting questions for sure. But I was, for some reason, curious about this fake meat thing, and stumbled upon a couple of things. One is the fact that they have this thing called cultivated meat from bovine cells. It's regarding 3D tissue engineering, and they use these 3D scaffolds, which I'm not quite sure what the scaffolds are made of, to tell you the truth. They almost look sponges, and they were just little ones that they were showing in the videos. I watched a few videos, but then I went looking for the fake meat, because I'm going, okay, that's not exactly what I was remembering from months or a year ago. And so the other one, the third one, is genetically engineered faked meat. Of course, they're doing this in Silicon Valley, according to the article, which I'll post both of them here, and both of them have a lot of information to talk, and both of them are coming in from a climate change. But the Impossible Foods, which is the one that I recognize the name, and they're using soy, and they're using genetically engineered yeast, and so 1 part soy, 1 part yeast, and 1 part activism. But that's not really it, because I went and looked it up, and again, I probably could write a book on all of this. But so really, let's consider we have 4 ways of gaining meat. Okay, 5. Let's put it 5. One is the wild meat. So they get to eat where they want, and also what they want, and they're in the wild, and they tend to have lower fat content. Then there's the second one, which is these lovely, beautiful green farms working with the number of cows they can have on the right acreage. They're eating grass as their diet, which they would normally, so they're eating their natural diet, although there's supplementation as far as what they're eating, like alfalfa and grass, because of the winter. That's up here, but not corn, and not soy, and not anything genetically modified. So that's number 2. And number 3 is the commercial farms, where they're not even on any grass. And as according to the stat here, 54% of the farms still in the U.S. are using antibiotics. In Canada, they're not supposed to, or they don't. Growth hormones for sure. I'm sure antibiotics, yeah, they probably do, but growth hormones they're not supposed to be using in Canada. So we have that third farm, which is it's not really nature's way. Now, maybe they don't know any better, of course, but how they would be treated, and what they would be fed, and how they would be feeling, and their health, and all the things that I've been told as part of that meat. And then the fourth one, which I brought up, is the cultivated meat, using the bovine cells into these 3D scaffolds, and it's almost my growing. They're like biofarms, as they call it, or they looked like a dairy farm or a brewery, is what they mentioned. And then the fifth one is the genetically engineered fake meat, producing it in Silicon Valley. So the idea is I will post, I know I have it up here somewhere, as far as this. So in essence, I guess I've got to allow, I'm not going to allow, but I was trying to explore. I've got the videos up here, and it seems like it's definitely Israel, and from the accents and everything, these are over there. But I'm wondering how it works with this cultivated meat, if you could eat it raw, or does it have to be cooked? They're very thin, and they look like very, from this standpoint, they have thought about other elements that are in there. But definitely things to be aware of. I have to research it a bit more. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it for the next few days. But the Impossible Burger, they had different aspects. So to say it's 1 part soy, 1 part yeast, genetically engineered yeast, because they're trying to work out texture, they're trying to work out flavor, they're trying to work out what it smells like. And in here, one of the articles here under Wired, inside the strange science of fake meat that bleeds, and you can cook it and it looks like it. But there's so many aspects. But one of the things, I mean, I wouldn't do it because I just don't like grains as much, and even if they were natural. And second to that, the genetically modified parts that are going into this, all parts of this. So they have brought in things like hemp, which is part of iron, which is how you get the red color, but they're getting it from, I think they said soy roots here. The other thing that they had in there, I mean, yeah, so there's firmness and chewing and softer, and so there's all that part, not just to the looks, but to consuming it. But I thought this was kind of creepy. Impossible Foods uses coconut with the flavor sucked out. So I see up here in the picture that they have wheat, and I'm going, okay, so they said 1 part soy, but yet wheat protein's involved, and wheat protein brings something to it, texture, something, proteins. And then the hem, which would be, it sounds like a molecule that actually looks very red here. Whether they dyed or not, I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be from the soy root. And xanthocyanin, yeah, and konjac, which is, just kind of plants and roots and texture to binding with stuff like that, and coconut oil. So they suck the flavor out. And then, of course, you need the hem, which drives home the flavor of the meat. But I don't know how many people know this. In food processing and working in that area in Loblaws, one of the largest businesses going on this planet, it's almost like they seem incognito, or let's say behind the curtain, is actually flavors. Flavors is a huge, huge business. It was just a simple company like International Flavors, but anything you want, pineapple, in this case meat, you can, they can create it. So for something so accurately mimics the taste and look and feel and smell of meat, and trust us, it does, the Impossible Burger is actually not all that complicated. Earlier iterations were much more complex, which is because they didn't fully understand it, and experiments with cucumber and the famously smelly durian fruit didn't pan out, nor did trying to replicate the different connective tissues of a cow. So I guess they tried other things before plant. But I don't know if anybody here has ever tasted the Impossible Burger. Then you can let us know how it tastes. And I'm not sure how and where they are as far as that goes. But that was the two interesting things that I wanted to bring up. I'm not sure if some of the mentions in there, the science or the conversations about it, just from understand things at different angles on things, is that I buy into the population problem. Having driven across Canada a few times, there is much more land. Now, if they're talking just the cities themselves, just having everybody crammed into the cities, I can see where they're going with that, because they seem to want to do that. But as far as land goes, oh my gosh, we have so much land, and they could do, I was watching This just came to mind. I was watching a sponsored thing, and it was around gardening. So I'm really big into gardening and wanting still to collect more and more information on it. But this fella, he, with using, they call them the green monsters, but he was getting the produce 5 times as big. Just all natural, just all natural. And but he mentioned, what really stuck to me is, typically weeds will grow in the soil because they're needed. And the one thing about the dandelion growing, which would make complete sense, because the roots grow so deep, is to help break up the soil. So it loves hard soil. It will grow well in hard soil because its job would be to loosen the soil. I thought that was amazing. So the idea that overpopulated and climate change, the way they're talking about it, I've seen so many, how can I say, pictures and things, and even just personal experience, whereas if you leave the land alone, it takes care of itself, and trees will grow up like forests, not just individual trees planted 30 feet away like we're thinking we have to, but in lush, just beautiful, and all the various insects, and it'll just keep its balance. Okay, so I'm not concerned about population control. I'm absolutely not concerned about climate change at all. I think if you want to focus on the environment and changing climate, change the inner environment, your inner environment, everybody in the inner environment, so your physical body, that environment, that's the one that needs the most attention, and we can just then look into what we're putting into our body. So I'm not quite sure. I have to further investigate this cultivated meat, bovine cells, and the genetically engineered fake meat, which I'm wondering why they gave it that name. But nonetheless, if you go and you read different things, you're going to find out different things. End of story. So, page isn't available, technical error.